Anime in the water. 12, 13 feet in length. Eyes made in an abyss.
Put on your big Hollywood sunglasses and light the torch, because it's Cellar time. Welcome to the Crack Cellar, as the prophecy was foretold. I'm Two-Spirit Penguin Daniel.
And I'm Broadcaster Nickels.
And today, we talk about the unholy triforce of bullshit that we call Warzone, Final Fantasy VII Remake, and Doom Eternal, all coming out at basically the same time. Fuck these motherfuckers. Collusion!
It's funny, too, because Warzone's just a free-to-play game, and it has one thing you do, which is Battle Royale. But it's just so addicting. I haven't even gotten through Doom yet, because every time I get like a quarter way through a chapter, because chapters are unholy long in fucking Doom. I'm just like, so you know long. What? I'm going to play some more Warzone. And then Final Fantasy VII came out. I stayed up till 4 o'clock in the morning last night playing Final Fantasy VII.
What are your early thoughts?
Well, I'm going to hold out. I mean, there's everything so far. I mean, I'm just ecstatic for but there's just some things I'm going to have to see till the bitter end, essentially, to see how they really play out, because there are some things that are alarming me a little bit. One is the pacing of the game, because I'm on the 8th chapter now, I think, and not to spoil anything, but the 8th chapter kind of takes place around where you actually party up with Aerith for the first time, and yada yada yada. If you played the game, you know what's up. If you haven't, then that's not too big of a spoiler for you. But nonetheless, that's where I'm at, and I'm told that you're supposed to have 60 hours of gameplay. That's what is guaranteed in quotation marks for Final Fantasy VII.
Ooh, I'll bet it's 60 hours with all the side content. I highly doubt the main story straight through is 60 hours.
I don't know, man. I remember having a conversation with somebody because
think about it, dude.
About pouring in 100 hours easily into the original one, and they were saying how 60 hours just for disc 1, and I'm just like, really? But now I kind of call that all into question.
Yeah, I don't believe that.
And then the biggest thing to me that stands out so far is, and now that I've actually gotten my hands on it and seen how that you actually traverse through the world of Final Fantasy VII, is there is no transversable map, and that's all right for pretty much the whole beginning part of Final Fantasy VII, because you don't really hit the transversable map until you get out of Midgar, which is not what you do in this whole first part we're getting. So rather, they're going to kind of just give you a little tease at the very end to go on the transversal map once you get out of Midgar, because that's supposedly what this whole game is about again. Or the second part is going to have a transversable map, if they're staying true to their word, or some form of it, and it's going to be really jarring. Is each part going to be really a lot different in that way?
Well, I don't think that there's going to be a traversable map. I think it's just going to be FF10 style. You're just going to be going through the world map as levels. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I gotcha.
It's going to be like FF10, I think. But, with
you think people will fly with that?
Graphics.
Because I think a lot of people are looking for some type of airship experience. And if they just get Final Fantasy X 2.0, I think that's going to be kind of a letdown.
Well, I don't think that there's going to be a world map. I think if there was, we would have already heard it by now. And from what
Really? You think so?
Yeah, they would have made some sort of statement at one point, but no world map because it's Midgar, but of course in the future we'll have a
So
world map.
let's think about this then. Then what will be the point of chocobo breeding in Final Fantasy VII?
Racing in a minigame?
That's it? Just
Probably.
golden saucer? You're gonna get all kinds of different breeds of chocobos, and remember when you could hit the forest and fly and go into the ocean, and you get the island that has W summon and shit? Like they're gonna replace that all with different stuff?
Uh, who knows at this point?
I
This
mean,
game is so different than
yeah,
FF7 original.
yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised anything happened because that's my biggest takeaway so far. And I'm only chapter 4, so I'm only about half as far as you are. But from what I've seen, they are definitely going a different route. Like, there's way more stuff. It's crazy how different it is. I expected it to be a lot, more just what we saw from Midgar originally, but
I mean,
the
it's
little bit of dressing. There's a lot of dressing here.
there's a lot of dressing, but I mean, it's still the same. Like I haven't seen anything that's just like, whoa, that's crazy different. Besides one thing,
Well,
there's one thing, but I don't want to talk
yeah,
about
you're right. We,
but on
it
that note, without spoiling it, because I think me and you are talking about the same thing, I'll talk about something a little bit more in general, and I think in theory to what a lot of people were asking about before this game came out. Is this game going to shoehorn or insert in not such a good fashion other lore like Crisis Core and Advent Children and stuff like that? Are they going to seed in notes to kind of tie it all together organically in the opportunities they didn't have before? And at first I was like, that's preposterous. I don't think they'll do anything that drastic. But now that I'm getting my hands on the game, I think we might be in store for something like that.
Yeah, I assume that Advent Children would be a part of it. I'm not sure about Crisis Core, though. That one, I feel like, based off of what happens in Crisis Core, it would kind of be weird to see how they would integrate that without seriously giving away some stuff to non-original fans. You know what I mean? Like, people that are playing this for the first time.
Yeah.
Like,
And
if you incorporated Crisis Core in any way feasible, I could imagine it just ruining, some twists that happen at the end of the game that are basically the main reason the game is so legendary in the story department.
Sure. Yeah, I really meant from more of like a past tense type of thing, like there'll be memories and characters in places that originally weren't there. That kind of just like, if you know type of thing. It's not like they actually retell the story of Zack or anything. It's just like now they have opportunity to like put Loveless there or something like that. Or what was his name? I forget the guy's name. The weird romantic guy and stuff. Like they could put him in scenes and stuff like that and people would get it. Whereas before in the original Final Fantasy VII, that character literally hadn't even existed yet.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that they're going to incorporate Crisis Core. I'm kind of skeptical they're even going to have any Advent Children related stuff either. I just feel like they're really just sticking to the original formula as closely as possible. Because I think you can kind of tell when you're playing this, even early on, that there was a fear in these guys.
Oh, for sure.
They were afraid they were going to fuck something up. And just like when you play this game, you just like, okay, this is very specifically like they're like, we can't fuck this up, that we can't change this. People are going to get pissed if we, like you can just feel it. There's a sense of original creation respect so far that I don't think they're going to want to taint the original FF7 with the sequel stuff. I mean, it's not really a sequel, but you know what I'm saying. Anything that's post-original release.
Yeah, for sure. Something else it made the new version actually made me appreciate was, back in the PlayStation era when all these JRPGs were coming out and stuff. Well, and for my generation, all these new JRPGs were coming out, including Final Fantasy VII and like Legend of the Dragoon and Chrono Cross and all these other things.
How dare you compare those games?
Wild Arms and just all kinds of RPGs were coming out. And
Don't forget Brave Fencer Musashi. He was RPG adjacent.
Quadroon. But what I was getting to is when you played these old school games, because of the technology at the time, every part of a level was kind of a setup piece, like an art piece in its own. You know, a lot of time was taken in each part of the game you visited to kind of just make it feel alive as much as it could for the time. And that kind of slowly went away as technology really progressed into like the PS2 and Xbox and beyond and stuff like that, because now they really started focusing on what the character actually looked like. They wanted to make those characters look as real as they needed or possible. And I think that really just kind of was a pivot in the whole industry. And when I see Final Fantasy VII, I had that in the back of my mind the whole time. I was like, man, what's it going to look like when you see the reactor for the first time in the game? Because in the original game, they just had this mass static backdrop of the reactor, and it slowly panned up it, right? Mm-hmm. And that was kind of a style of Final Fantasy VII, is they had these really cool static vivid backgrounds.
Yeah, pre-rendered backgrounds.
Yeah,
that was like the era of pre-rendered backgrounds, and they were awesome.
Different, and it was really in a good way jarring from the actual graphics of the game. Right, you could see the clear line where things were separated graphics wise.
Yes,
but in this new one, they do it service. When you go up to the reactor, the way they use the camera is how they kind of make up for those non-static backgrounds, at least not using the static backgrounds as much as they used to. Because you'll still notice a lot of static backgrounds where they didn't really need to do it, but it was almost like they were paying homage to the original game. They're like, this is how the game looks, so we just have to do it this way. It's not
100%. I noticed it in Chapter 2. Yeah. I saw when you first are kind of looking around the Midgar from the slums, you look and you notice that a part of the upper Midgar area and like the skyline is a static pre-rendered background, and there's no games do that anymore. So no. It's got to be an homage. I think so anyway.
And it was purposefully done in an old school way. Like they could have made it look better, but they didn't. They're just like, nah.
Yeah. It's like a little love letter to the fans, which so far this game just completely feels like a love letter to the fans in every way. But, early on, so gonna keep tempering my enthusiasm, but so far I am 100% liking everything except the lack of the fanfare. Come on, I want to see Cloud twirl his goddamn sword and hear the goddamn fanfare.
I think it's coming. I mean, I'm not too far in the game yet, at least I don't think. But, I've already heard Barrett do the victory music, so.
Interesting.
He just mouths it. He goes, do, 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 do.
Okay, that's pretty funny.
But that's it.
Okay, before we move on from our FF7 talk and go to our preview, I want to ask you one question. Did you go with the curse dub or the wholly pure Japanese?
I'm going with the dub.
I knew it.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm going Japanese, so we're going two different roads.
I'm going to play the game so much, I'm going to play it again. I'll play it in Japanese.
Probably, yeah. If we're being real, we'll probably play it in both multiple times.
I know I'm going to. There's not a question. There's not a doubt in my mind. But, I think when you finally do the American voice actors, you're going to be surprised. They're really good.
I thought they would be. It's just kind of like FF7 is such a big deal. You would think they'd just go for the absolute cream.
Yeah.
Macho Man would say the cream rises to the top, and that cream going to the top of that mountain, that's the top of Midgar.
But I will only say that for the important characters. All NPCs' voices, they're nothing to talk about. I wouldn't say they're terrible, but it's just American NPC voice acting. It's nothing to go home about, They stand out. It's very heavy contrasted to the beautiful professional voice actors of the main characters and side characters.
Yeah. The only reason I wanted to kind of go dub first was because I want to hear Barrett's angry black man voice, because I know it's probably legendary.
It is very legendary. It sounds like... I'm trying to forget or I'm trying to remember what Stormy said he sounded like, but I personally thought he sounded like DMX, a young DMX,
Young
like with
DMX.
some angst still, you know.
God damn it. Yeah. I'm definitely playing it on dub at least once. I got to. Just for that.
And just I won't say anything of what Rude says from the Turks, but when you meet Rude, that man is clearly being voiced by a black man.
Yes,
that is
awesome.
A white bald man being voiced by a black man, no doubt in my mind. I might be wrong about that. It might be just a strong white man, but it sounds like a black man.
That's a strong choice by Square. I like it. All right, well, yeah, so it looks like we're both pretty high on FF7 right now. Both still struggling to beat Doom Eternal because too much shit came out at the same time.
Oh, yeah. Am I allowed to smoke on air?
What's that? You want more crack, Cellar? This is good. Join your lords on Twitter at The Crack Cellar and Facebook.com/The Crack Cellar.
Hey, you over there. Are you a straight-up Chad or a strong woman? Well, you can find us on Apple Podcasts and your favorite podcasting app. Or, if you're a straight-up beta cuck, find us on YouTube with the rest of the Cloud Chasers. And we're back with our preview of Amazon Studios' New World. Broadcaster Nickels, conquistador zombies, demons, and medieval villages. What in the fuck is happening in this video game?
You know, I do not know what to make of it in that department. There's a lot of things I do know about this game, but as far as why all these different parts of history or like armies of history and stuff like that are meshing together in myth, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
It does. There's a good amount of information about the game, but not a whole lot in a way.
Well, it's because it keeps changing. So I've been following this for about a year now, and it's been a roller coaster of a year.
Yeah.
Like, when I first started following this game, it was the Messiah. It was the chosen one. It was Neo. And holy fuck has that general attitude changed over the last year. So basically what happened, to start off, is that this was originally a PvP-only game.
Yep.
So this is they describe it as a supernatural themed sandbox MMO. But originally it was just a PvP, open world PvP sandbox MMO. That's originally what the game was. And over the last year, they have made some big changes. And they added a total PvE element to it. They removed open world PvP completely in favor of like a realm versus realm sort of meta PvP. It's hard.
No, it's still open world.
Yeah, I don't think it's open world PvP anymore. I'm pretty sure they changed that recently.
That would have to be really recent. Because I thought I was just
a month ago, I think. Or a couple months ago, I don't know. There was a huge deal about it, though. Like, the fans were revolting. The fans were revolting because people now think they're slowly turning it into a theme park MMO, and it's like a big bait and switch.
Man, that would suck.
Yeah, because
some of the existing mechanics still seem pretty cool.
Well, they do, and that's what I was going to say is that I'm very interested in this game despite all of the negativity around it, even though I agree with the people that are down on it that I really wanted this to be Dark Tide from Asheron's Call. That's what I wanted when I first saw it, and that's what it seemed like it was going to be at first.
That's what put it on the map for me.
Yeah, but now it's looking like it's going to be more like a non-PvP Asheron's Call server. So that's still cool, because have you looked at the battle system, dude? It is the Asheron's Call battle system, basically.
Well,
close, very close.
I would say it's more like Dark Souls. I mean, even the creator himself has said like his main inspiration for all the melee combat. Now no one's has seen magic content so
Right.
far, but as far as melee content goes, it's I mean you can't argue really, especially when the guy himself says it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've only seen one gameplay trailer or video or whatever. So, and it didn't have a whole lot of combat, but it definitely had some. And it, from what I was looking at, it looked very similar to Ashen's Call. I almost felt like I was looking at Ashen's Call 3 while I was watching the video. It was very similar.
Yeah. Well, I think the as far as the leveling and class system and everything about that, which therefore the lack of class system is a lot like AC. I think that's where a lot of the AC similarities pull from, because the leveling system, as you would put it, is a parallel system. You just level up. There is no job or class or anything. You level up weapons, which again is akin to AC, which I really liked. That brought me back to the Atlan weapon immediately.
Yep.
As soon as I was just like, dude, that's cool. I was just like, the possibilities. Again, who knows where it goes, but no, that's where I kind of saw Ashen's Call's spirit in the game.
I see it all over the place, except for the Conquistador zombies. That definitely is not jiving.
It's going to take me a while to get used to that theme.
And it does seem like it's going to be story heavy based off of that official trailer. But history shows that typically these type of games are not story heavy. So it makes me wonder, why'd you put all this work into like trying to make this little mythos like you're doing like a JRPG, or like you're doing like a game with a real storyline, when it doesn't seem like you're going to do it, and it's kind of misleading.
I think, if you're talking about the original trailer, that kind of showed the Centaurian group approaching that statue that was aging through time, and they touched the stone or whatever. If you're talking about that trailer, I've, put the tinfoil hat on here real quick. I'm pretty sure a different development team, or rather a drastically different headed development team, made that initial trailer. And what the game is pretty much sitting as now is totally a different idea.
Yes,
so
that's 100% true. Because like I said, the game has changed a lot in the last year, and from what I gleaned, it changed even before that. Like before I started following it, it was a lot different from when I first started following it. It seems like this game has made a huge amount of mid-development changes, which on one hand you kind of admire, because it means you're not married to a bad idea, but at the other end of it, it's like everyone wants a sandbox MMO, and it's like sand falling through your fingers. It feels like it's just gonna poof, theme park. That's what I feel like is gonna happen.
Yeah, it'd be a shame, because when I see what they have already, I just don't know how it would fail, because they have so many good ideas. I'm just like, you guys can make that into an open world MMO. I know you can. The technology is there. So even if that's not what the game is, and if you upset a bunch of people, I know you can reverse ship, and I know you have enough Bezos bills to fund it. So, and I know that's exactly Bezos's philosophy too. If he really believes in something, he'll throw as much money as he needs to at it. And I can't imagine he's trying to get an MMO going, at least this ambitious of an MMO going, unless he really believed in it. Bezos is kind of a weird, secretive nerd. I mean, he believes in fucking going to planets and reviving sci-fi channel shows and shit like that, So there is this weird side to Bezos where I could believe he's like, nah, this MMO is going to succeed no matter what.
He's definitely my favorite James Bond villain.
For sure.
This is Amazon's first game, right?
Yeah. Well,
I've never heard of Amazon Studios until this
game. I think Amazon has a few like mobile, weird, in-house development games that they've done, but nothing AAA, I believe.
Interesting. Yeah, I've never even heard of Amazon Studios till this game, so I was very interested when I saw that, and makes me wonder, was Bezos a fan of Ashen's Call? Is he like reviving another thing, but this one more incognito style?
Well, I think, if Bezos is a fan of MMOs or just a real gamer in general, I think the story of the MMO genre is kind of a sad one. It's like, especially nowadays, like you just see these. Well, I mean, besides Final Fantasy 14, Final Fantasy 14 is a great game, and I'm not knocking it by any means. It's just the only one. You know, you look at all these MMOs that have come and gone, and the one notably it's still around, other than 14. WoW, it's just like this husk. And when you see what they do to keep people entertained, it's just like these iterations and old content. Nothing is changed in so long, decades. You know, it hasn't changed. And then you look even further back, and you go to like EverQuest in AC. EverQuest being pretty much the prototype to what WoW ends up dominating as, and AC being this other type of MMO that kind of just died off eventually.
It's the Betamax of MMOs. It makes me sad.
Yeah, and so I think, I don't know, I'd like to imagine Bezos is just like, we're making this right. We're revitalizing the MMO world. I'm not trying to compete with these other MMOs. I'm trying to fucking, set a new standard for MMOs. Things that people will want to copy for the next couple decades.
I think in general, people are done with theme park MMOs. I think that they'll play the ones that are out now that are good, like WoW and Final Fantasy, but I don't think anyone wants a new theme park MMO anymore.
No.
I think that desire is, it's just gone. I think that people want something new and fresh in the MMO market, and that's why you've seen like the rise of the MMO shooter like Destiny, because people are trying to shake up the meta and get like that fire back that made WoW like a phenom in what was like 2008 when it peaked to like 25 million players or some shit, like active subscribers too, not just people who own the game. I'm talking active paying subscribers. It was so high at one point that it was like bigger than a lot of states' population. So
for sure,
it's crazy to think that that game's still going, but I think it's just all nostalgia at this point with WoW, and I think Final Fantasy is starting to get to that point too. It's starting to go into remix mode like WoW did about 5 or 6 years ago, and I don't see a lot of people just like salivating for, I need a refresh on my theme park MMO. I think that they need something new, and hopefully this is that new thing, but somewhat old. But because no one remembers it and no one played Asheron's Call, it'll be new to most people.
Yeah. MMOs used to give something you couldn't get anywhere else in the gaming world. The MMO, it's the term itself, massive multiplayer online. Games, that was the only genre that allowed you to play with that many people. Now graphics and technology is at this place now where every single type of game has a pretty significant player base that you interact with. Not exactly the same like a traditional MMO, but the qualities are there. And it's slowly infected every game. That's why online multiplayer is like a must. And now Battle Royale being the evolution of that, So I think that also is a tribute to why MMOs are just not successful anymore. When we used to play them back in the day when AC was around, again, that was a unique feeling you could only get from an MMO. Now you can turn on a game like Destiny, an FPS, but it still gives you those MMO qualities. Dungeon grinding and loot and having a clan. If that's actually a thing in Destiny, but still, you get what I'm saying.
I think Destiny, one of the main reasons that it hasn't taken off as an MMO is because it has one of the worst flaws of modern MMOs baked into it so deeply, and that is instancing. Instancing sort of ruined MMORPGs. Before instancing, at least like the massive scale of instancing we have now, like there was instancing back in the day, but it was much more limited. And when these MMORPGs they were massive. Like you go to zones and there'd be hundreds of people, and you couldn't just like, I'm not in your instance, I can't see you. That type of shit. It's like you saw everyone. If you were in that spot and there was another person in that same spot, you're seeing each other. It's real. It was tangible. The instancing thing And I'm talking more about the hyper instancing, like when you have, say, the tower in Destiny 2 that has 5,000 versions of itself, each with 10 people in it.
Mm-hmm.
That ruined the feel of
For
being
sure.
in a real community. There is a fracturing because of this, and
Yep.
I think it's killing the entire concept of the MMORPG. But they just don't realize it, or maybe people. It's so subliminal that they don't even realize it either. But I truly believe that is the cancer that's rotting out the genre, and hopefully, New World will not be instanced, and it doesn't sound like it will be. But like I said, there's been a lot of backtracking and compromises so far, and who knows what could further they could go on that. And I just really hope that they resist that urge.
Yeah, for sure. And on that note, here's some things, since we brought up Destiny, I'm just going to talk about all games that try to be MMO-esque. These are the things that New World are doing that really impress me, and I hope they implement well, that a lot of other MMOs could look at and be like, we need to do this in the future. And that is a long overdue one. One thing I loved about Warframe, and that's in-game player-based economy.
Yes.
That stuff is some of the coolest stuff if done right. Sorry, Diablo 3. But if you implement that right, it will bring people coming back to that game for years. In years, I'm telling you. And supposedly New World's doing that, and to the extreme, up to the point where this game is not pure PvP now, but there's going to be territories. Everything is territory based, and they're all going to be these territories are going to be ruled between 3 different factions: Marauders, Covenant, or the Syndicate. And when you're in these territories, you have to actually fight PvP to keep these territories. And if you don't, your territory gets sacked.
Yeah.
So
That's the main. I think that's the only form of PvP in the game now, and that's what people were pissed about.
No, well,
That's what I heard. That's the only version now, and the old school version just got cut completely. That's my latest information, unless they backtracked on it.
no. Well, not necessarily. So what's going on right now, as it stands, from what I understand, is that there's going to be the 50 versus 50 PvP faction mode, and then on top of that, they're going to have traditional MMO PvP. Like old school PvP, where you could actually set yourself as a PvP person, and then you can run into other people that have set themselves.
Well, no, it's fine, and I don't even mind that because Ashen's Call is the same way. In Ashen's Call on normal servers, they had that. It was called PK Lite. You're a pink dot instead of a red dot.
Oh yeah,
and I don't mind that at all. It's just come on, make a server for each. Why can't you have one for full PvP and one for Care Bears? That's how it should be. I just don't understand why limiting it.
I think
that's why everyone's mad.
I think, this also touches on another thing about games, and kind of touches on Final Fantasy VII and why I love it so much, is the way you budget money in games. To experiment in a game, it's just so much more risky nowadays. And the development time it takes to make something iffy that people might hate. Even though, as a non-game developer, I would say take it. Fucking, we need that shit. But the people actually doing it and people supplying the money, I could see why there's not a lot of that, because it takes a serious amount of time and money to make games on the level people expect. And that's why I always appreciate using money in a very creative way, not necessarily a glamorous way, Yeah. And Final Fantasy VII does that really well too, where you look at all the important character models and they're done beautifully, but all the NPCs are necessarily downgraded. All the environment is necessarily downgraded. You don't need it, and the game runs smoothly and beautiful. And back to those backdrops we were talking about. They're kind of downgraded, but in an artistic, almost throwback way, but still allows them to downgrade it in areas where it doesn't need to be over the top.
Yeah, I like the graphics in New World. They're not top tier, but they're in that nice, good looking B- tier.
Yeah. Dude, did you hear about the house design system in New World? This is
No.
probably one of my favorite things too. Is there's a ongoing house design contest. So in Final Fantasy 14 where you can get lots. I think you can do this in WoW too, but you get lots in
No.
cities and stuff like that.
WoW never
And you
got
can,
housing. It's really weird too. I always thought
wow,
they would, but
that is weird. And you could decorate it. You guys decked it out in 14. You guys got a dope ass looking house. You can do the same thing in New World, and you get decoration points. I'm not quite sure how you get the decoration points yet. I'm hoping it's like an actual like community based thing, and people vote on which house looks the dopest, and that you get a decoration point for it or whatever. But nonetheless, the way it works is everyone, as many people as they want, can go on the same plot in a housing district. But the one that actually shows on the public server is the one that's voted the best, the one with the highest decoration points. So it creates this house design contest constantly. If you want your house to be the one that shows to everybody, you have to be the badass one.
that's pretty cool. So everyone else's house is instanced, and this guy gets to be in the real world. The guy who's the winner.
Exactly.
That's actually really cool. I agree with you on that. I hope that's true, because I feel like housing has kind of lost its way. Like it's really good, but it feels pointless now.
Most definitely. Also something I forgot when I was going to bring up when we were talking about the leveling system and the lack of classes is, did I hear this right? Is all gear crafted in the game?
The entire economy is player driven. There are no vendors. And again, this could change because they've changed a lot of stuff. But as of right now, it is still completely player driven. Anything you buy in this game or sell in this game will be to another player, not to an NPC.
It's dope. That
It
is
is.
super fucking cool.
I know.
That
There's a
leaves,
lot of good, positive things about this game. There is.
That leaves like this crazy, almost Uncharted universe type feel to the gear system. It's like, who's gonna create what next? Like, what I'm gonna turn the game on next week, and people are gonna figure out that there's like this new mail you can make if you make a certain alloy and enchant it from this other that stuff is dope. And
Yeah.
that's why old school MMOs were super cool, like the Atlan quest. The shit you had to do to get a perfected Atlan sword is been totally absent from all MMOs after it.
Yeah, you do everything. You do everything perfect, and then you're still at the whim of that alchemist. It's like you hope that he didn't lie about his alchemy skill.
You want to know what RNG is? Having a good alchemist on your server, that's RNG.
Oh man, yeah, the moment when you got a fucking superior Atlan sword instead of a peerless Atlan sword was like the biggest heartbreak I ever experienced in an MMO.
And turned the game on for like 3 days. You like took a sabbatical.
Yeah, and you just log back on in front of that goddamn golem. You're just like, fuck you, give me my peerless Atlan sword.
I hate you.
All right, well, yeah, so what are you thinking for this one, Broadcaster Nickels? You gonna give it a side thumb? You can give it the thumbs up, maybe the thumbs down?
I'm gonna give it the thumbs up for sure. Everything I've seen so far gives me hope. I wish I could have gotten in the closed beta, to be honest. And now that they're pushing it out to I think it's August now, because it was supposed to come out. The closed beta was supposed to happen this month if you pre-ordered it. Now they're doing August for the closed beta, which makes me hope that they might reopen the closed beta ticket, because they won't let anybody in if you pre-order it now. But hopefully they reopen it.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm gonna give it a side thumb, just because I am looking forward to it, and I'm definitely gonna try it. But the pattern I've seen since I started following it is kind of alarming. I don't know, like maybe it'll all be good and it's all just kind of a little, big huff about nothing, but I've just seen a lot of weird trends going in the wrong direction, and I hope this game doesn't come out and everyone's just like scratching their head like this is not the game that we thought we were getting.
I'm going to be maybe a little too real here, but I'm going to say about 95% of all game development tales are kind of shaky nowadays. Every time I hear about a beloved game being remade or this new can't wait to play game that EA is coming out with, Anthem, stuff like that, it seems like it's everywhere now. You can't escape it. It's in I don't know what's going on with the industry, but I mean, look at Final Fantasy VII. What we got in the end, great so far, but look what it took to get here. You know, it just seems like that's plaguing the gaming industry. Anytime you go set out to make anything ambitious or even remotely good, it's like controversy, propaganda, crunch, main head developer leaving, main story writer leaving, throwing first version of the game being thrown out. You know, it's just you can't escape it.
You ready to go to our review?
Indeed.
And we're back with our review of Akihiro Tsukushi's Made in Abyss. And the creator of this anime describes it as the following. The enormous cave system known as the Abyss is the only unexplored place in the world. Nobody knows how far down this titanic pit goes, inhabited by strange and wondrous creatures, full of mysterious ancient relics, whose purpose is unknown to modern man. Generations of bold adventurers have been drawn by the cryptic depths of the abyss. Over the course of time, those bold enough to explore the dangerous pit came to be known as cave raiders. Broadcaster Nickels, let us bring in this review to our non-spoiler section, of course, by saying this has a very weird, chibi style of art that holy hell does it take a minute to get used to.
Yeah. That was the first thing I noticed. Stormy was actually, our brother was sitting in the room with me when I watched the first episode, and as soon as I saw the art, I was like, what the hell did Daniel sign me up for? This fucking shit looks stupid as fuck.
Listen, dude, I didn't sign you up for it. Hideo Kojima did. I got this from Hideo Kojima on Twitter. The only reason I know about its existence is because I was just randomly on Twitter one day, and Hideo Kojima's like, yo, you know, this anime's kind of cool. You should check it out. I was like, you know what? If the man who gave us Big Boss tells me to check an anime out, I'm a simple man. I do it.
These are words to live by. You know, the whole anime for the first, I don't know, I'd say 4 episodes was a real slow burn for me. So as far as a review goes, I'm going to lump episode 1 through 4 kind of together as one long, necessary, but kind of slow part of the series.
It definitely changes. The beginning is like a weird, it's almost like a doujin comic, like a slice of life in the beginning, where you're just kind of like, what the hell is happening here? It
yeah,
seems like kids in an orphanage. You're just like, okay.
Some Mega Man Ico wannabe looking motherfucker.
Yeah.
You notice that Reg looks kind of like the warrior, the kid from Ico, the game, the PS2 game.
A little
Remember
bit. That? Yeah, no, a little bit.
It's just that it's the helmet.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's just a Japanese thing, and I'm picking up on it now.
It probably comes from like some ancient thing that we're not aware of. Like a lot of anime comes from like old stuff before our time. Like it all comes from the same thing. Kind of like how like everything in Western RPGs comes from Dungeons and Dragons. There's probably an anime Japanese equivalent of that.
True. Good point.
But yeah, this show, the non-spoiler section is going to be very brief, and I'm going to kind of keep it as a warning almost. Don't check this anime out unless you've watched a lot of anime already. This is not a starter anime pack. This is something I would recommend to someone who has seen 50 animes, not 5. It'll make you uncomfortable. It has very weird tones. The art style makes you feel like you're watching a kid's show, and then when you're watching it, you see really dark, weird, and sometimes uncomfortable shit, and it just fucks with your brain a little bit, because the art style makes you feel like you're watching like something meant for 6-year-olds, and it's really weird. What do you think about all that, without going into spoilers, because there's going to be a lot more on that uncomfortable shit in the spoiler section.
Well, yeah, I don't know who did this anime. I didn't look into any of that, but I was definitely questioning some of the artistic choices in the anime for sure. Especially, there seem to in the anime there are scenes that are drawn a specific way that clearly illustrate that the idea was being censored. Yeah, I don't know how to say it any other way.
Yes.
Like someone had a clear artistic direction that they were not willing to compromise on, and ultimately it was illustrated in a very censored way. I don't even know how to put it.
Well, yeah, let's just leave it at that for now. This is not a Christian show. If you're going to Sunday Easter Mass tomorrow as we record this episode of the Crack Cellar, this probably is not for you. I feel like people who watch this might get put on a list. I feel like I might be on a list now just for watching this anime. That being said, there's nothing actually rated R about it, which is weird. After giving this lecture about how kind of fucked up this anime is, at the same time, they hide a lot of it. Like you're saying, I don't know.
I think there's some rated R aspects of it.
There's definitely one part I want to talk about that is very rated R, but for the most part, it's almost PG-13 for most of it, right? For like 90% of it, at least, it's PG-13. But yeah, there's...
I don't know, man. Like, even though the first 4 episodes, as I said, were a slow burn, there was some things in those episodes that definitely put it on the rated R list.
yeah, for sure. So before we go to spoilers, I just want to say that the actual overall storyline of this anime is directly inspired by Dante's Inferno, and the Abyss is basically the circles of hell. So each layer of the Abyss is like a circle of hell from Dante's Inferno, essentially. Yeah. But it's not exact. Like, this is not like a remake of that at all. It's totally different. But what I'm saying is that the idea of the Abyss, like the meta of this anime, is definitely directly inspired by Dante's Inferno.
No doubt. I would definitely agree.
And I like that. I think that the actual Abyss itself, like, there's a part where they see the map of it, and like the anime kind of does like a slow pan up of the entire map of the Abyss, like really close up. And like I actually sat there and I paused it on each part of it because I was so into the design of just from a map, like what it looks like. I'm really into maps. I like maps, and this was one of the coolest maps I've seen in an anime or video game in a long time.
It was definitely an attractive looking map, no doubt about it.
Yeah, and it had like some really interesting choices as you went to the bottom which are... Yeah, okay, let's go into spoilers, shall we?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll start off with episode 5. That's kind of where... well, first we'll back up and talk about what I meant in episode 1 through 4. What the fuck is up with these motherfuckers hanging people upside down naked as a basic discipline, as basic punishment?
And they all do it. It's not just like one crazy dude. Like 4 different characters bring it up, I think, in this anime.
This is some weird shit, man. I don't know where that came from.
Yeah,
that's some type of humor somewhere over in Asia, but
oh man, this is one of the weirdest animes I think I've ever seen. It's not the weirdest, but it's up there in that like echelon of just like, what the fuck did I just watch? It's very short, and you expect an ending. You don't even get an ending. It's one of the weirdest 13 episodes. It's actually 15 episodes because the final episode's like a movie, basically. It has so many weird turns, and like the beginning of it, I didn't like at all. Like you said, a slow burn. First 4 episodes were just like, I'm about to not even finish this anime, maybe. Then they actually start going down into the abyss, and this middle part of the anime, in my opinion, was the best part. What do you think?
Well, I mean, there's The last 3 episodes were probably the most intense and like progressing parts of the anime as a whole. I don't know where the manga sits, but just those last 3 episodes. But at the end of episode 4, when the Black Whistle, I forget his name, kind of like the dad figure.
The uncle.
The big dude. When he warns them of Ozen the Unmovable, he's just like, you're gonna go meet them over at the Seeking Camp, and these people are supposed to be your allies, but just the way they set the tone for that, I was just like, all right, so not all white whistles are good people. That started to really it was the first thing they gave you on the white whistles. And on that note, Ozen is probably one of the coolest parts of the anime. Like episodes 6 and 7, when they're at Ozen's place, the seeker camp, but not the episode where they're like alone in the forest hunting. I think it's episode 8 or something like that. That episode's lame.
That's probably the worst. Yeah, I'm gonna say
yeah.
Post Abyss. So like once they're in the abyss to the end of the anime, the worst in that is definitely the one in the forest alone, like the little training session. It was
and
pretty
that's
stupid.
Episode 8. It's pretty fucking lame.
Yeah.
But when Ozen tests them in her camp,
yep,
that was dope as fuck. Super cool.
Yeah, that whole betrayal, that like fake betrayal thing, that was my favorite part of the entire anime.
And it also just gave you so much more, I don't know, expansion of the universe, like with the curse and the fact that the cube not only is, they set it up as like this vessel that repelled the curse and allowed Riku to survive. But really, you find out that Riku is a stillborn because of the curse. And they put it in the cube for shits and giggles, you'd say, into the cube, and miraculously it actually started to regenerate the baby into a proper human, or baby human.
Yeah, one of the positives of this anime is definitely the pacing of the story. There's no bloat really, other than like maybe episode 2 and episode 8. Yeah, I'd say episode 2 and episode 8 are the bloat episodes. Other than that, it's just like everything's happening. Things are moving. There's no like, we're just going to sit here and have some exposition for 25 minutes. So I think that's really cool. But I do have a problem with the ending. And I did not like the last 3 episodes, I think, as much as you did. I was shocked at the way Midi and Nanachi just took over the end of that anime. So I was, you're watching this and it's like an adventure. It feels like an RPG. Honestly, this anime feels like it should have been a video game. It could have been a really cool MMORPG if they just took the concept of the Abyss and applied it to that. But
that would be dope. That'd be super dope.
But the way that the show kind of sets up for this grand adventure to find her mom, Riku's mom, and with her, Mega Man boyfriend, it works perfectly all the way to like the second to last episode. It's completely hijacked by 2 characters that were never seen until this point, Midi and Nanachi. And I don't dislike the arc that much per se. If it were 13 episodes longer for a 26 episode total, maybe I'd feel differently, but you expect an ending and there's no ending. It's just life goes on, the adventure continues. And with a 13 episode anime, you just don't like that. Or at least I don't. With a small, short anime, I like an ending. I like something tangible and tight. It shouldn't just like linger on.
Well, this might change your mind. I, just based on my research, kind of took this anime as almost like a OVA treatment of what typically you see with old school animes redone, compared like to the likeness of the manga it was based on more. Because there is a manga, and I'm most certain it's way further and progressed in the story, because and also the first movie is going to be the actual end of the first season, which is I think lame, but it is like the ending I think we all want. It's going to introduce that white whistle, I forget his name, at the end. He was in the last 2 episodes, I think.
Yeah, the hijacked ending. I think that guy who voice acts him is Eisen too.
Yeah, it seemed recognizable, but I kind of disagree, man. I thought Nanachi and Midi's storyline at first kind of seemed lame, but when it tied into that white whistle, that evil white whistle, I thought it was pretty cool. It was almost like, I don't know, some Evangelion shit when they put him down to the bottom of the 6th level. I mean, that wasn't even the final level. that was some crazy shit. And it was also very fucking dark what Reg ended up having to do to Midi.
And that's this anime has a very sinister undertone that kind of hides underneath this cutesy shell that tricks you. I think part of the reason this anime is so uncomfortable is it tricks you into thinking it's something it's not, and then it just hits you over the head with really just graphic things that happen randomly, especially towards the end. Like when that whole poison scene with the arm and him trying to cut it off and all that was hard to watch.
Yeah, that was probably the most fucked up part of the series, to be honest. It dragged on so long, like he obviously wanted that to be a statement. I don't know what happened to whoever made this anime. I don't know, something traumatic happened in his life where like he wanted that scene to be as graphic as possible. But that scene was, to call it in a brief way, is to say it was up close and personal. Too up close and personal.
And it lingered, like you said. It lingered a little too long. And again, on purpose. This anime, it's like it wants to make you uncomfortable. I'm just kind of uncomfortable with it wanting to make me uncomfortable a little bit, if that makes any sense.
But the anime clearly has open-ended questions. Not even, there was with the kid remember all the kids that were dying from the birthday disease? That at the end, when they brought him off the island, he was better miraculously. And then they kind of insinuated the fact that like this curse where babies are born under it are all attracted to it. And since that kid was being deprived of not going to it, he was starting to die. Like some babies are born with more of an affinity towards the thing because that kid was way younger than the main characters, Riku, and the other kids, but Riku had this, urge to go into the pit. And that kid, that's what at least I took from it, was the fact that the kid wasn't going into the pit. He was starting to die of the curse.
Interesting. I actually had a different take on that. I thought that the curse was expanding upward and that basically there's now a curse effect on the upper level, like there is on each of the layers of the abyss. You know what I mean? Like creeping upwards. So that this new level that is encroached upon the actual top of the land is an abyss where kids die on their birthday. And once they took that kid away from the island and he got better, that's what cemented it for me.
That's an interesting take. I mean, that's a very specific rule of a level.
Yeah.
The abyss.
Well,
and if it is creeping upwards, I mean,
it would totally change the basis of the show if it were to continue, which I have no idea if it is. When I first saw this, I assumed it was one and done and short, and that's why I kind of expected a tight ending.
I honestly don't think it's one and done. I'm definitely expecting a second season because there's so many things unanswered. The fact that the kid, like they left that unopened. That happened at the very end of the series when they took him off the island and they were like, "Oh, he just miraculously got better," and they didn't talk anything about it. They definitely left that open ended. And then there's all the other white whistles. They've only shown 3 white whistles, and there's 8 or something like that. And they they went out of their way to show all the white whistles, all drawn beautifully in ominous colors and stuff like that. They were dope looking. So, I mean, there's so many more characters they have to introduce. And,
Well, two things. First, I'm guessing the manga goes way further than this anime.
Yeah.
And that's a tricky deal because not all mangas get their entire catalog covered in anime form, as we painfully are aware with Berserk. So it's just not a guarantee. And then we have this movie coming out, or did come out in Japan. I actually haven't tried downloading that, but I think I am going to watch it just because of all the unanswered questions. Now I feel like I need to search for them in this movie. I'm guessing a lot of what you just said can be covered in that movie, so I don't necessarily think a second season's coming. And 13 episodes is a weird amount. It's a weird amount of episodes for a season or a show that's coming back. Usually shows that come back at a full 26.
I think it was a test. Dude, anime is weird, man. And it also had a lot of hand drawing in it. There wasn't a lot of CGI in that anime, which is expensive. So,
well,
that might be a thing too.
And I think they ran into budget on that because did you notice in the middle when they first start going down into the abyss, the monsters in certain scenes were drawn like super poorly. Like the cannibal bird, the very first time they see the cannibal bird, it looks like something out of like a 1980s computer game. It was super jarring, and I was thinking, is this how all of them look? Is this just...
I thought it was an artistic choice when I first saw it, and then they abruptly changed. It was
and they
weird.
Get better later on. So I think they ran into budget, and they had to like do some ghetto-ass shit to fill in those few scenes where we saw that because they ran out of money. What other explanation is there? It makes no sense why the art style would just drastically change for 2 episodes for the same creature.
That's very true. It's very true.
So if it ran into budget concerns... It's only 13 episodes instead of 26. It seems like this was not a studio darling.
No, I would not. I don't know. So you brought up Berserk. I wouldn't say it correlates to Berserk in any way, but as far as anime treatment goes, I think you can definitely see some similarities. I think this anime probably has a huge cult following in the manga. I'm assuming all this, by the way, but I imagine... It has a big cult following, and this 13 episodes is probably the first true anime justice they've gotten, and it might just be a test in the water, whether it gets continued or not. I mean, look at things like Gantz, Gantz originally, I think, was 13 episodes long, around 13 episodes long, and it was just based on the first 3 missions, or the first 2 missions, or something. I forget, but it was very, very small in comparison to the manga. The manga goes way past the 3 missions and actually ends, whereas that 13 episodes just abruptly stops. So there's always kinds of stories out there of animes coming and going, and then getting different iterations and stuff. I mean, look at Rurouni Kenshin, Samurai X, and then eventually the Rurouni Kenshin OVAs. It's just there's so many ways people treat anime.
Yeah, but as we've alluded to in the non-spoiler section earlier, there is a lot of taboo kind of...
That's what I'm saying. That's why
type
it's
stuff.
kind of like Berserk, Berserk has a lot of taboo stuff, and I think that's kind of why over the years it's struggled to get the appreciation it deserves to have the funding for anime status.
In Berserk, this is not. So if Berserk can't continue on, I find it hard to believe that something like this can.
I think the anime in general is having a hard time. If you're not a blockbuster...
If you're not Oda with his big Hollywood sunglasses driving his Ferrari to work.
If you're not a slice of life type anime, or a huge AAA blockbuster like One Piece or Dragon Ball or Bleach or something, then you're kind of just on the fringes.
Yeah.
Well,
it's how it is in the gaming industry too, so it makes sense.
Yeah. It's a weird world. The anime world.
Yeah, it is. But so the weird fetishization of Riku and Reg was just so hard to watch. There are certain scenes where it's just kind of creepy, but you kind of let it go. But then there's ones where like the uncle takes fucking Reg's fucking boxers off, kind of, and looks at his dick and says, "Oh, that's not mechanical." What? Why the fuck would you do that? It's just, I don't know. I don't get who that humor is for. That's just really weird.
Pedophiles.
But why?
I'll just say it straight up. There are some moments in this anime where I was just like, I am definitely being marked in some way in a database.
Yeah,
I don't know where, but
sure.
I don't know why I downloaded
I never
this.
thought Hideo Kojima would point me to something that I thought might get me put on a list.
This is the most elaborate Hideo Kojima troll I've ever seen.
It's the real ending to MGS5.
You've been framed as a pedo.
I mean,
Snake.
but it's funny because it's really careful to not draw anything. So it's just like you're looking at Barbie dolls and stuff when all this weird shit happens. But it's still super weird, and I just like don't understand why have it. It's unnecessary, especially the part at the end. This was the worst part. This was even worse than the boxer one, where they go skinny dipping in the healing pool. And,
oh God!
And I don't even want to say it, but I'm going to for science here. She goes, "Reg, you're a penis," and implying that there's an erect penis under the water, which you cannot see. They don't show anything. But
these are kids.
But you're just like, dude, these are like chibi art style, like little kids. Just like, I don't want to see this.
It's very awkward.
And I can't imagine this anime getting a whole lot of funding based off of this shit, because it's not good, and I don't even think it was necessary most of the time. Like a few of them, like I said, were kind of benign. Just like, okay, whatever. Like in the beginning, the ones weren't as bad, but then towards the end, dude, that stuff I couldn't stomach it. I didn't like it, and it just made me not want to watch it.
Yeah, that shit needs to get cut out.
Yeah, it does.
That stuff really just needs to. I mean, even with Nanachi and Midi in the past sequences, they kind of started to imply they were like more than just friends, just the way they were like looking at each other and stuff. And I was like, these are fucking little kids. What is going on here? Why are we seeing relationships?
Yeah.
What are they supposed to be? 8 or 9 or what?
I'm not clear on that, but the art style on top of their presumed age just makes it even worse. It's just like, this looks like it's a show for kids. And seeing this stuff happen to kids in a show that looks like it's for kids just gives you a weird feeling. You're just like,
for sure.
But
I think what we can take away is that someone just needs to take the Abyss concept and apply it to an MMO and just forget about this anime.
For sure. No, that's my takeaway. That is my takeaway, is that just take the concept of the Abyss, turn it into an MMORPG, cut all that other crap out, and I think we got a winner, because the Abyss is really cool. I like the take on it. I love the map. I love just kind of the Sword Art Online style MMO world it ended up being. Because when I first saw this, I was thinking it was going to literally be like hell, and it was going to be a bunch of hellscapes. But it ends up being kind of like a fantasy MMORPG instead, and it was really cool. But
I love the environments. The environments were super cool. Probably the best quality of the whole anime. Or manga, the story.
They put real money into some of those too. Like, you can see where the budget went in this anime. There's certain scenes you look at it and you're just like, this is really fucking cool.
For sure.
But, I really don't like the ending. There's a lot of elements to this anime I don't like very much. I'm very disappointed in Hideo Kojima, honestly. Like, I thought that there's no way he would steer me wrong and this was like a slam dunk, but I wouldn't even put this in my top 40. It's just not that good.
No, God, no.
It's just not a good...
Especially if it doesn't go any further. I mean, the only thing I can really take away is that the anime or story, manga, whatever, has some serious potential from what I can see. Like the concept of the whistle miners and the abyss itself and the curse. That's all super cool. And I was really intrigued, and that's what got me all the way to the 13th episode. But I don't know, like we were talking about, there's some artistic choices and some humor that really downgrade for me. And on top of that, the first 4 episodes were really slow. So,
yep.
It's just kind of like, do I recommend it? Probably not. I wouldn't recommend it to really anybody. Because I don't really know a lot of anime connoisseurs.
Yeah, I would. I would not recommend this anime to anyone. I don't think. Maybe someone that's seen every anime and they're really into anime. Maybe. But like I said, bare minimum, you've had to have seen 50 animes for me to even think about recommending this to you, because this is just not your normal anime. This is some out there shit. The guy's being subversive. This is a subversive anime that's meant to like challenge societal norms and all this shit, and you know what they're doing, the guy's doing behind it. And that's cool, but it's just like, I think you're kind of selling yourself short, because I think if you kind of got rid of some of that crap and just embraced your story concepts more, this could have been a legendary anime.
For
and
sure.
It just wasn't.
You know, on top of, you just reminded me of something. The biggest standout as far as not explaining something in the 13 episodes was the bell. They brought up artifacts from the first episode, and Riku's mom going on this quest for the silent bell and stuff, and they slowly cut back to all these past sequences of Riku getting carried on the back of Ozen up the hill through the layers. And in some of them they show this bell, but that's it. They bring it up and that's it. They don't ever talk about what it potentially does, why they were going for it. They never run into it. The Riku and Reg, being the main characters, never run into it. I mean, it just, I don't know. It's one of those big standouts to me, where it's just like, there's so many things unanswered in this anime, and you're having kid pool scenes and spending 3 episodes curing a fucked up arm you shouldn't have fucked up in the first place. Which I can appreciate on an extreme level. I get what he's doing, but on the other hand, I'm just like, fuck, that was intense. That was emotionally distressful.
The only thing I really liked about the ending was the white whistle evil guy who was using the kids in that experiment. That was like, that was some good shit. Like, I liked all that part, and I wouldn't have minded it. I just didn't want it as the ending, and essentially that's the ending. And I just didn't like the resolution, and I'm hoping the movie fixes it. But I have a feeling...
the movie's just about him and his posse. So,
oh really?
Yeah, like the kids running. I don't know exactly what it's about, but it's pretty much finishing up like what we thought the season would have ended with. Yeah.
Well, I thought the season should have ended with her finding out if her mother's dead or not, and either she is or she isn't, and she meets her, one of the two. Like, that's what I wanted from that anime. In 13 episodes, I thought I was guaranteed locked to get a resolution, because that's the benefit of short animes usually. No resolution, bullshit ending that goes to hijack new characters that weren't even in the anime till the very fucking end. And sure, it was cool what happened to him, but it's bullshit. It's a cop-out. And then for them to just be like, oh, well, now that all that happened and you know my backstory, let's go on the adventure together. But then the anime is over. It's like, no, that was what I needed to see. That was my ending, is where you're about to go. And I think that's fucked up, and it ruined the anime for me a little bit.
For sure.
Among other things.
Yeah, it was definitely a unnecessary turn. I don't know why they took so much time with side stories. I mean, that's where, you know, the manga is, you know, or what the manga is for. The anime, especially if you're going to only get 13 episodes, should be very precise, only the good shit, you know? Give it a definitive ending, or at least cliffhanger, to leave people wanting more. This was kind of an ending, a cliffhanger, but one that would piss most people off. It's just like, what? That's it?
Yeah, it felt like a waste of time, and I didn't... Not only does it feel like a waste of time, it feels like they tricked you into wasting your time a little bit, because they give you this cool premise, and then they just totally rip the carpet from underneath your feet at the end there, and you find out that there's likely to not be another season or any... If this movie does resolve something, I hope it does, but I have a weird feeling it's not going to resolve things, but we'll see.
For sure. I don't know if I'll give a fuck about it.
Yeah, I'm not even sure if I'll watch the movie, honestly. And on that note, Broadcaster Nickels, what is your official Joker rating for Made in Abyss?
I'm going to give it a Caesar Romero.
Indeed, I will also give it a Cesar Romero. Has some redeeming elements. Not the worst anime I've ever seen in my life, but very close to it. And honestly, all the weirdness was just kind of provocatory. It was not very. They try to make it seem artistic, but it really didn't feel like it. It just kind of felt like scummy a little bit. And I wouldn't recommend the anime probably to anyone. So I'm just giving it the Cesar Romero because they tried. And there's some cool art in there, and there's some cool stuff that happens in the middle of it that I liked. But for the most part, didn't like this anime very much.
For sure. There's definitely some moments in the anime where I think the hit out blackout TV screen should have just went over, you know what I'm saying? Unnecessary.
I do. And with that, we will get the fuck out of the abyss. What? No Jaws joke?
I only have one. Leave me alone.